Hey everyone, you're watching Rooted and Rising, and this is a show about aging, healing, and everything in between. And today I'm going to talk to you about one thing that I do every single year. So let's get into it. So I'm not a cook. I don't like cooking. I only cook because it's a necessity. So I have children, and when they were growing up, of course, I was a designated cooker, but I really just, it's not my jam. I just don't get into cooking. But there is one thing that I do every single year that people want me to do. And so I do it. And what is that? I make pumpkin bread. And how this all came about was that when I was younger and growing up, my mom had a tradition of around the fall time, Halloween and Thanksgiving, she would bring home apple cider. And I don't mean uh, apple juice. I mean, apple cider, the real deal. She would also bring fresh glazed donuts, and she would bring home pumpkins to carve for the holidays. And then we would take out the seeds of the pumpkin and roast the seeds. And that was like our special thing that we would do every year. So as I got my own family, I decided to continue the tradition, and I stopped buying the apple cider because it's a lot of sugar. But I do still continue to get the pumpkins and carve them out, make the seeds. So one year I was carving out the pumpkin and making the seeds, and I was wondering, all this extra pumpkin, what am I going to do with it? So I decided to make pumpkin bread. And the family loved it so much that it became a yearly tradition of getting pumpkins, carving the pumpkins, and making pumpkin bread. So today I want to share with you my simple and easy recipe for making pumpkin bread. It's moist, delicious, flavorful, and it is a forgiving recipe.
All right, guys, so here we go. We have our chopped pumpkin. So I'm taking a whole pumpkin and I'm going to chop it up in large pieces, and then I'm going to put it into the oven at 350 for about an hour. So you see, this is the back of the pumpkin, and that's kind of what you want. You want that caramelized look to it. That's going to give you its very rich caramelized sweet flavor after you roast it. And if it's not fork tender and caramelized like that, keep it in the oven until it gets that way, and then you can take it out. And make sure you let it cool down completely because that pumpkin's going to be very hot. So afterwards, I'm going to get my food processor out and I'm going to puree all of that pumpkin. And this is probably the hardest part, is that chopping of the pumpkin and then pureeing the pumpkin. I'm going to puree all the pumpkin because it's a pretty large pumpkin. You don't really need all of that. And then I'll show you how to store it, the extra pumpkin, later. So you're asking, well, why don't you just go get you a can of Libby pumpkin? Well, yeah, I could do that. Libby does give you that orange, deep orange, brownish, color to the pumpkin bread. But I have found that fresh pumpkin really adds that richness and that moistness that we're looking for. There have been times that I have mixed fresh pumpkin with the Libby pumpkin so that I can get a deeper color, and that also works out well. So it's whatever you feel like you need to do to get the pumpkin bread to where you want it to be. Again, this recipe is very forgiving, and that's what I like about it. So next I'm going to take out my measurements. I'm going to be adding in about 2 cups of that pumpkin puree. I like to take it over the top a little bit and get a little bit of extra pumpkin in there. And then I will take the rest and store it for next time. So because I'm making 2 batches, 2 loaves of pumpkin bread, I would say 2 cups would probably do the trick. A little bit more is perfectly fine. It just gives it a little bit more richer pumpkin flavor, and you don't have to worry about it becoming too hard. So you see how I'm just kind of going over the 2 cup point. All right, and then we're going to store the rest in Ziploc bags, dated for today. That pumpkin puree can stay in your freezer for up to 6 months. And here are our ingredients. Okay, so we're going to take 3.5 cups of flour first, and we're going to put that into a bowl because we're going to be adding all of our dry ingredients together. After we add in our flour, we're going to add 2 teaspoons of baking soda. And then after the baking soda, we're going to follow that up with adding in 1 teaspoon of cinnamon, followed by 1 teaspoon of nutmeg, a half a teaspoon of cloves, and then 1/4 teaspoon of ginger, and finally 1 1/2 teaspoons of salt. And then I just kind of incorporate all of those dry ingredients together, getting them mixed up thoroughly. And then that takes care of your dry ingredients. And then we're going to set that bowl aside and then start working on our wet ingredients. So we're going to start with that pumpkin puree, and that's 2 cups of pumpkin puree. And if you want to add in that 1/4 cup of Libby's or half a cup of Libby's, that's fine. It's not going to mess up the recipe. It'll just give it a little bit more of an orange color. I'm going to add in next 4 large eggs to that. And then after I add in the 4 large eggs, I'm going to put in 2/3 cups of water, followed by 1 cup of oil, that's vegetable oil, and then our sugar. So I'll put in 1 cup of white sugar, and then I'll put in 1 cup of brown sugar. Yes, that's a lot of sugar. This is a treat. The brown sugar doesn't make it as sweet. That's why I like to use the brown sugar to incorporate that with everything. But there are versions of this recipe that don't involve so much sugar. And if you want to know how to do that, let me know. So next I'm going to incorporate my dry ingredients into my wet ingredients. We're going to mix all of that flour that we made earlier into this bowl. And I just realized that this bowl is entirely too small. Remember, I'm not a cook. And I'm wondering, do I have a bigger bowl around somewhere? I'm trying to make it work though. All right. Hey, look, I found a bigger bowl. Okay, good. So I put everything into that bowl, and you just want to mix it until it gets to a nice smooth consistency. Don't worry about over mixing, under mixing, just a smooth consistency. This Pam Baking is the bomb. It's really good. I mean, it incorporates the flour and then also the oil. So all you got to do is just spray it into your 9x5 tins, and it does the trick. No greasing, no flour, none of that. Okay, so next I'm going to put in my wet ingredients into my 9x5 pan. I usually fill it up to about halfway. And then to my next batch, I'll pour in that 1 cup of chocolate chips. So we like a lot of chocolate chips. If you don't, you can put in a 1/4 cup. That's perfectly fine. But the chocolate chips also add more sweetness. So there you have it. So you have 2 9x5s. You stick it in the oven at 350 for 50 minutes. And you take it out when the toothpick comes out clean. Okay, and this is what it should look like. Nice and golden and brown. Let's check out the moistness. Moist. All right.
Hey everyone, I am Aisha's daughter. I'm going to be trying her pumpkin bread today. It is chocolate chips inside.
Yes.
All right, let's see.
Here we go.
Good.
Yummy.
It is moist.
Mm-hmm.
Finger looking good. Let's take one more.
Okay. Yum, yum. Success. All
Okay.
right. Awesome. So that's it. Simple, easy, delicious recipe that you can try on your own. And let me know if you do try it. I would love to hear how it turned out. Or if there's some other recipes that you've tried and you do every year, put them down in the comments below. And don't forget to like and subscribe to this channel. And I will see you next time. Bye.